Sugar Sean O'Malley is the fakest fighter we've ever saw in the UFC. Hailed as the next big UFC superstar to rival the likes of Conor McGregor and Israel Adesanya. Turns out he's actually just a corporate product, carefully crafted by the UFC, and is a man with zero personality who's had to make himself look like Tekashi 6ix9ine on an extra dose of Fent to trick people into believing he's got some super unique personality. There's a reason all of his fans are frat boys or prepubescent teens. Now, first of all, I'm not here to rag on the guy's fighting ability. That's a totally different thing in itself. I'm just here to talk about how fake and manufactured he is. Well, obviously, the UFC has to promote the stars like any other major sport does, and sometimes it works out like Conor and Izzy, but most of the time, UFC constantly shoving someone down your throat just leaves a sour taste in your mouth. Me, the biggest case of this is Sugar Sean. Sugar first came onto the scene on Dana White's Contender Series Season 2, scoring a knockout against Arthur Khosragharan, who was 8-4 at the time. Sean going into this fight was 6-0 and moved to 7-0 with a beautiful knockout, and straight away he was getting helped with the stardom by Snoop Dogg of all people.
Oh yeah! O'Malley! O'Malley!
So immediately from the start, Dana saw this and he sold money in Sugar Sean O'Malley.
I'm looking for flashy. I'm looking for somebody who has that thing.
What is that thing?
Sean O'Malley is.
The UFC PR machine went straight behind this guy, including getting him on Joe Rogan's podcast. Now, Sugar would make his UFC debut 5 months after winning his Contender Series fight in a dominant decision, and his next fight 3 months later, he would win again. So at this point, Sugar was 3-0 in the UFC. But his latest fight, he suffered a really bad leg injury, and probably could have been finished, but his opponent had a really stupid fucking performance aside taking him down when he was injured. But what's more important right now is Sean would actually test positive osterine, an illegal drug that helps with muscle gain, physical performance, and bone mass. Seemed didn't work with Sugar though, considering he still looked malnourished. Not really the point though. Sugar wouldn't fight for the next 2 years, and in that time the UFC put Sugar tested positive completely under the rug and tricked most fans into believing that he was just recovering from his injury. Most fans today have no idea that Sugar Sean was ever a steroid cheat and he ever tested positive, and the only time he's ever spoken it is making an excuse saying it can be transferred by sweat or sharing something with someone who uses it.
So I got suspended a couple years ago, and it always drove me crazy anytime people would bring it up because like, you did steroids. I didn't do shit, fucking pussy. And it was me, Tanquinho, and Kyler. We all trained at the same gym, all tested. None of us took anything. We all swore on our lives. And I remember asking USADA and the UFC, I'm like, can it be transferred through sweat? And they said, no, not at this time. There's no studies. It's never happened. Just recently, studies came out, scientists, athletes, it happened. It happened on someone's like knee band. Someone was sharing a knee band. They tested for osterine, and they tested the knee band, but it came back that osterine and those kind of tainted supplements can be through sweat exchange. It fucked with me for so long. So when Jeff Nowitzki texted me the other day, he said, yo, check this out. I didn't want to look at my phone. I saw his name pop up. I had a fucking heart attack. I looked at it. He sent me the article. He said, look at this. And we know exactly who the fuck it was, or we have a good idea. Me, Tank, and Kyler all trained comp training, jiu-jitsu. These guys that they were open about it. Yeah. They were on. They took it. They take it. And I was like, bro, that was such a relief.
Anyway, Sugar Sean would make his return in 2020, knocking out Jose Quinones and the old man Eddie Wineland. But something was different. He looked a little different, okay? He had a little makeover. He went from looking like an ICT graduate to a dope dealer who jumps from couch to couch. At this point in time, the UFC wanted to push Sugar Sean to the moon. They gave him Marlon Chito Vera next. And this fight didn't go the way the UFC wanted it to at all. Sugar was getting a leg kick constantly and would eventually be injured in the fight and fall down. Chito Vera pounced on the opportunity and elbowed Sean O'Malley's head right into the canvas, leading to a TKO stoppage where it was clear as day Sean was about to go out cold. Now, this was a legitimate win because the damage to Sean's leg, by yes, probably being somewhat affected by his previous injury, was done by Marlon Chito Vera's leg kicks. But this wouldn't stop Sugar Sean paraded around claiming that he's undefeated, which he still claims to this day, almost 4 years later. Now at this point, the Sugar Show was looking pretty bleak, but it would go straight back on track with some wins. Like Thomas Almeida, which he finished in the 3rd round, Chris Moutinho, which came in short notice but was an absolutely beautiful dominant striking performance by Sugar Sean. He was meant to have a fight against Louis Smoker that got cancelled. He then fought some random guy called Rallian Pavera, and then he actually got a step up in competition against Pedro Munoz. Now this fight for Sugar Sean was going fine. He was probably winning the fight. It was relatively close, but he was just edging it. But then he accidentally eye-poked Pedro Munoz in the eye and the fight got stopped. and this was disastrous for Sugar Sean at the time. But it actually came as a blessing in disguise, because Sugar Sean, who was barely in the top 15 at the time, would get a fight against the #1 contender, Peter Yan, former champion. Now this is the fight where Sugar Sean, even though all the shit I give him, proved that he's actually a top level fighter, maybe one of the best strikers that we've ever saw. But on the lead up to this fight, we discovered one thing. This guy can't talk to save his fucking life. He got absolutely decimated in the trash talk against Peter Yan. And Peter Yan doesn't even speak English. He actually got called a whore, and Sean sat there. It seemed like he had some form of social anxiety. And by the way, this hasn't fixed ever since then. Now this fight was insanely good. I actually gave it to Sugar Sean at the time. The general consensus is that it went to Peter Yan, but Sugar Sean proved that he was legit either way. But he shouldn't have really got this fight in the first place, and it was clear the UFC were giving him favours. Now at this point, next up was the champion Aljamain Sterling, which fair play to Sugar Sean, he knocked out in the second round brutally. But you remember that Marlon Cheeto Vera guy? Well, he's actually been doing pretty good in the UFC. He had just beat Pedro Munoz after coming off a loss against Corey Sandhagen, who Corey Sandhagen and Merab Dvalishvili seemed like the clear #1 and #2 contender. But yet again, Sean O'Malley got another favour done by the UFC and was allowed to fight ranked #7 Marlon Cheeto Vera. This was clear as day, wrong, a scam, and bullshit. Two top contenders have been scammed out of a title shot, and Sugar was being given a free title shot. Because even though that first win by Marlon was completely legit, it was clear as day who the better fighter was. Now on the lead up to this fight, they had a seasonal press conference which had Sean Strickland on it. And I think for most fans it's really highlighted how shit Sugar Sean is on the mic and how immature and stupid he sounds, and why his only real fan base are 12-year-olds. He pretty much got bitched by Sean Strickland, and his only insult was, "Your dad fucked you as a kid." Yeah, got him there, man. At this point in time, even though Sugar was champion with an amazing fighting style, who would absolutely go on to dominate Marlon Cheeto Vera in a beautiful performance, he wasn't even the most popular Sean in the UFC. He wasn't really accepted by hardcore fans. He had nowhere near as much casual appeal as the UFC thought he did, even though he did have some. But every single thing marketable about Sean O'Malley that wasn't his fighting was not about his personality, it was by how stupid he looked. Sean has said on numerous occasions that he has aspirations to be bigger than Conor, which just seems literally impossible at this point. As Sean isn't as witty as Conor, isn't as brutal as Conor with the trash talk, as really just comes across as extremely immature, stupid, and he argues like you're having an argument with your friend, and he argues like a drunk hobo. I mean, come on, how do you get out trash talk by someone who doesn't even speak English? Now another thing that rubbed people the wrong way is after he beat Marlon Cheeto Vera and he had a clear #1 in Merab Dvalishvili, he actually tried calling out Ilya Topuria at first. Now this is a completely different issue, but this is what rubs some hardcore fans the wrong way. Nowadays it's well too easy to become a double champ. You get 2 defenses and the opportunity is just given to you. Asking for it after you've had your first defense and you've been barely inactive, because the winter belt, you're not the guy out in the second round. You didn't have to take 7 months off for that. But yeah, asking for a double champ opportunity after one defense against a guy who shouldn't have even been getting a title shot in the first place just rubs people the wrong way. Also, this card, UFC 299, was absolutely stacked from top to bottom. So stacked it actually harmed other pay-per-views going on around about at the time. And it's clear as day what the UFC did this. Sugar Sean doesn't sell by himself. They needed to put a stack card around this guy to make sure that he actually sold even close to what the UFC were hoping for. Now obviously we don't know exact figures. Now moving on to now has a title shot coming up against Merab Dvalishvili. And once again, because Sean can't sell as much as the UFC want him to, they put him as the main event for an astronomical card in the Sphere, and he's not even been the promotion about the fight. It's literally just been the arena, which even he's had issues with and even he's shown that he's angry about. But to what point can you blame the UFC? You've manufactured this star, and even though he's obviously more popular than your average fighter, he's one of the more popular guys on the roster, he isn't a superstar. There's numerous fighters who are bigger than Sugar Sean pay-per-view wise. Even John Jones, who yes is the GOAT, but he has zero personality and zero markability, especially with how much he's fucked up in life, sells better than Sugar Sean. Sean just isn't a very interesting guy as well. Literally all he has to talk about on his podcast is when he went out with some guy called Smitty, which no one fucking knows about. Just made himself look really desperate against Conor. Conor literally put a smiley face to Sean saying about the whole ostrichen thing or whatever the fuck. And then Sean went on massive Twitter rants, pretty much going off on Conor, just making him look really desperate. Now, is Sugar Sean fixable? Yes, to an extent. He will never be as big as Conor, and that's just a blatant fact. A lot of Conor's superstardom came from his rise out upon. But the guy just needs to learn how to talk on stage. He has zero stage presence. Hope you enjoyed, and I'm out.